Welcome to the Tipsy Guest Podcast. I am your host, Marco Buenrostro, and every week I'm here with the top industry experts, amazing clients, and all my vendor BFFs to bring you the best tips, advice, and juicy behind-the-scenes stories to make wedding and event planning a breeze. So grab your favorite drink and let's get this party started! Hey guys, welcome to the Tipsy Guest. I am Marco Buenrostro, your host, and I'm so excited. This is the beginning of season 3 of the Tipsy Guest, and today I am very honored to have a veteran in the events industry. I've been trying to get him here. I mean, this is a season 3 already, so that's already like 50-some episodes. I've been trying to get him here for more than 50 episodes, and he finally said yes. So we are going to welcome an expert in the events industry, Art Menchaka. Hello.
Hey, Marco. Happy to be here, man.
Oh, my God. I mean, it took me 2 seasons, 50-some episodes, and you finally said yes. So thank you so much for being here with me today.
Yeah, that $20 you gave me really sealed the deal.
All right, Art, so let's jump right into it. I mean, you have been in the events industry for a very long time. How long have you been in this?
No, I'm not that much veteran. I'm not that old. But I've hospitality about 20 years only. That's when I did a career change and went to culinary school in Chicago. And then I kind of opened my eyes into a whole new way of life for me.
Oh my gosh! And have you always been in San Antonio, like in the industry, or did you start?
I started in Chicago, okay. So yeah. After I graduated culinary school, I worked at a few high-end restaurants and just kind of understood what was going on. Then I started my own private chef business, and as I grew my client base, which was slow, I got offered a job at a catering company, and just as a delivery driver, which was paying me a lot more than the restaurants were paying me, oddly enough. And I got in there, and my background was operations and all the other stuff. So I kind of restructured while I was waiting for deliveries on their small catering drop-offs. I restructured their whole system, and like 2 weeks in, he's like, "Hey, you want to be my director of operations?" And I was like, sure. And
why not?
Yeah. And so I started with a boutique caterer that was Evanston, just north of Chicago, while I lived in Chicago, and kind of got me into catering, and I just fell in love with it. And then the recession hit in 2008, and the company was having a hard time, and I said, you know what, I'm going to move back to Texas, and I'm from Laredo originally. That's where I grew up, and I was going to move to San Antonio because it was still big city, but hometown
Small
feel.
Enough, yeah.
And when I came here, I did my research, and I knew that Arcade was where I wanted to work because it was the best of the best. But I didn't know the market. I didn't know the players. I didn't know the vendors. I knew nothing about San Antonio. And I gave myself a 5-year plan to work at Arcade in 5 years. So I worked at a conference center. I worked at a different caterer. I did some food truck consulting and did things in that. And to the week of my 5th year here, I got the job at Arcade.
Wow. So it was definitely within your 5-year plan.
Yes. It's as much hair as I have on my head.
I love it. And it's so interesting because every time I have a conversation with you, either at an event or at a mixer or just anywhere, I feel like every time I walk away from a conversation with you, it's like I learned something new. I mean, that what you bring to the table in the events industry is just years and years of experience, and I feel like you came to the right place, and that's exactly why I wanted you here, because I know, you have done so many. Do you even have an idea of how many events you've worked in your career?
Oh, I'm thousands. I work for a solid company that has an 80-year history. I'm almost at 11 years with the company, so, I mean...
Wow.
Yeah, 1,000 at least, I would say.
Yeah. So, I mean, so your knowledge is so incredible. Like, again, like every time we gossip at events, like it's always so fun, The
Chisme.
We love chisme. And every time I talk to you, of course, we've worked so many events together. And every time, every event is so different. I mean, like your vision for events is just... it doesn't even feel like you belong. And not that I'm, talking bad about San Antonio, but I'm like, it feels like you belong in like, I don't know, like New York and like those huge events that we always see like on online or like TV. Like, what is normally like, what's your inspiration for when people come to you and for, like, what is your process, I guess, when you get hired for a big event?
To be honest, it's the client. I listen to the client. I ask, what are your priorities? What are your preferences? What's important to you? Where do you celebrate date night or an achievement? Like if you got a promotion at work, where do you go eat, right? And kind of just get a feel. Like, do you like to travel? Get inspiration from the couple or the client, because we also do non-wedding events, but we'll focus on weddings. Is a couple comes in, it's usually the first time they've ever planned an event, right? And they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
So I know what they don't know, right? But I don't know what they don't know until I talk to them. So we chat and we go back and forth. It's almost like a consultation, right? Before that happens, of course, I think we have to qualify, right? Whether we're a right fit for them, whether we fit their wants and needs. And part of that is, I'll give you an example. And since this is a Tipsy Guest and we're trying to educate your listeners.
Of course,
right?
of course.
You get leads, and you see this on all our Facebook groups that we're all part of. We're like, hey, looking for a venue, right? Hey, I want to go do site visits. I get those calls all the time. We have Redberry Estate, right? I get calls all the time. Hey, we want to do a site visit on Saturday at 9 a.m. And I'm like, oh, hi, my name is Art. I have a few questions for you before we can do this, because I know nothing about your event, and we may not fit your wants and needs. So is it 100 guests? Is it 800 guests? And what's your budget? And is it ceremony and reception? All these things, right? Because if it's over 300 guests, I can't fit them in the venue, right? That doesn't mean I can't help you find other venues. I'd rather get that call and have a conversation, but let's have that conversation, right? And then a lot of times the feedback is, oh, well, we just started. We just got engaged this weekend or whatever the case is, which is great. I love that excitement of ooh, I'm so excited.
They're ready for it.
And I love that we have such a beautiful venue that people I'm the first call. In most cases, I am the first call that they make. Ooh, we've been waiting for this for a while, and now we got engaged, and we really want to go see your space. And I want to be that guy. I want to be the resource. I want to be the asset. I want to be the one that they want to be with, right? But let's have that brief conversation first, just to make sure we're there, right? Do I fit your guest count? Do I fit your budget? I get sometimes where like, oh, well, I want to bring in an outside caterer. I was like, well, that doesn't work at my venue, but I also want to be a resource for that couple, and I'll let them know, hey, I can't do that, but there's these other venues that are,
a little more flexible,
on par, and have an open catering list. And I am the preferred caterer at most of those venues also. So I do that. Or if my date is booked, hey, it's not a ceremony. We're doing it at church, but San Fernando, which is a popular one, is only available on the 12th, right? Okay, cool. I'm already sold on the 12th, but I'm also preferred at the Whitty and the Briscoe and at Sabot. And I mentioned all the venues, and how can I be a resource to help you find the perfect venue for what you want? But let's have that conversation, right? And before we have that conversation, the couple has to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Because they don't always, right? And I love it when I do get that couple that the groom is super inspired as well, right? And they've talked about it.
I love that when they're both involved in the process.
And they know, okay, cool, we've already discussed. We already know it's going to be 150 guests. We already know the date range that we want, whether it's ceremony, reception, what cuisine we want, the whole thing. Because we can do anything, right? To your point about my events or our events at RK seem like out of a magazine. That's always the goal, right? But that's not always realistic because it depends on what that budget is.
The budget.
And also preferences, right? Again, if food is not on your priorities list, I'm probably not the best caterer because you're never going to get that value out of it, right? And I know I'm not the least expensive, but I know I give the best value because what we do is above par.
I love that. Yeah. And then good thing that you're mentioning that, different couples have different priorities. So when it comes to, I feel like, I'm not married, but we've been doing this for a while. So whenever I do wedding fairs or open houses at venues, one of the first questions is, do you already have a venue? Mm-hmm. And you just mentioned right now, they're like, no, we just got engaged. We're getting started to, we're looking and blah, blah, blah. So at least with me, with the photo booth, we're normally at the very bottom of the list of right. priorities. Obviously you need to have a date, you need to have your venue. And then I feel, of course, catering is a very important part of the night. Everybody needs to eat, and then, the drinking and all of that. And then, of course, it comes the DJ, the design, the florals, the photo booth, the photographer, videographer, all of that. And then, but yes, I love the point that you made right now, that sometimes they just come to you without even knowing and doing their research about the different venues or the different vendors that they're reaching out. When they go to, let's say, for example, and I know this is like a touchy subject for most couples, when you ask the question, what is your budget? Do they normally give you like a number, or is it always more like, well, we don't know, and like what's the response, when you ask that question about budget?
So you have to be very delicate about the way that you ask that, right? And I never want to exclude anybody or make anybody feel like they can't afford what they want. So it's a very open-ended question, and my baseline question is there a price point that you're trying to work within, right? And that way I know. Half the time, the answer is no. There isn't, or we just started, we don't know. Cool. But based on the other answers, like, hey, I have 150 guests. Okay, great. I will let you know that we do start in that $38,000, $39,000 range, but I include a lot of things, which are tables and chairs and linen and china and glassware and flatware and food and bar service. The basic things that you need for a wedding, right? I'm already including all that in that price point, right? And sometimes it's a sticker shock, right? Oddly enough, so I just had somebody reach out to me for a wedding next year. And they reached out to me a few months ago, and I gave them the same thing. It was the same 150. I gave them that. Oh, that's above our budget. Thank you so much. You've been very responsive. Great. I love that. Right. If anything changes or you win the lottery, call me back. I always leave that door open.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah. After they did the research and they looked at other venues and they looked at other catering, they came back, and it wasn't that that they didn't know or did know their budget. It was that they didn't know what they had in their head was going to cost them. So once they did all the comparisons, they're like, oh, you're not that far away, if any.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, if you choose venue X, great, the venue might be less expensive, but maybe they don't have tables and chairs, and now you have to rent those. That's another $10,000. Right?
It adds up, yeah.
Maybe they have a more exclusive catering list, or, we're going to be on that higher end anyway, but some are open to other vendors that might be a lot less expensive, but if you just want tacos for your wedding, that's fine. I love. If I had a wedding, it would be tacos.
Oh my God, that is the best thing ever.
Right, but that's not what I do. Right, and can we do tacos? We can, but we're going to do it at an elevated level, and it's it's not going to save you any money, but it's going to make everybody rave about your wedding, and you're going to go
and the high-end tacos.
Yeah. But it's what's important to everyone. So when you start comparing everything, compare that baseline, that bottom line number. It's not, oh great, well this one's 10,000 and this one's 38,000. No, that 10,000 is going to quickly turn into 30, 35, 40, depending on who you have to add, right? And then another thing that for your listeners, tips: get the right vendors, right? If you start just shopping around or trying to DIY it, you're not going to be happy in the end with that result. So at Redberry, for example, we have a preferred vendors list. These are vendors that I've vetted. These are vendors that I know have their COI, so you don't have to worry about it, and I don't have to chase you because they gouged my wall while they were loading in their equipment, which has happened, right? They have to have their own insurance. But also, they're going to show up. I was prepping for this. I was listening back on some episodes, and Katie was mentioning, like, oh, we had a caterer that didn't show up, and she had to do the pizza.
Yep.
And I was like, I can't even imagine that. Like with us, that would never happen, right? We're going to cost you a little bit more, but you're buying that peace of mind that if my truck breaks down, I've got 25 other trucks.
You have a backup, yeah.
Right? That are going to show up. And I have a whole team. I've got hundreds of people on staff that are going to make it right? Because our goal is to make it better. And then vendors like you, for example, which you mentioned are like typically chosen after, because catering, food, and beverage are going to be your biggest expenses, right, in the wedding, right? They're going to take up a chunk of your money,
yeah,
because it's perishables and whatnot. But the ancillary businesses that I always refer to are like DJ and photo booth and all that other stuff. Like, come after you get the main
bigger things,
things on your budget. But like you, for example, when you show up at my venue, your team shows up hours before, sets up, then goes and resets, lunch, whatever, sets up anything. I don't know what you guys do when you're not there, but then you come back and you get there way before the event starts and you're ready to service because you've already done all the troubleshooting and all the setup. And not just you guys, I mean, there's several vendors that do that, but the vendors that I have on my list are vendors that have been there, that know the venue and whatnot. When you book a vendor at my venue or any venue, I think I can speak for other venues, is make sure that vendor, if they haven't been there, they set up a meeting to go by, right? A site visit.
Do a walkthrough, yeah.
Let me go, where's my load-in area? How early can I show up? What can I do? What can't I do, right? Like, because you don't want to find that out on your wedding day, right? You don't want to have to go and I have to go and tell the planner. Hopefully they have a planner, because I always recommend they have a planner. but hey, XYZ photo booth just showed up, right? And they should be starting in 30 minutes, but the ceremony is happening, so they can't load in right now. I mean, it's a whole
process.
Butterfly effect.
It is a whole process, and I'm so glad that you bring that up, because yes, there are so many vendors that, like their contract, and I'm gonna talk about photo booths, for example, because that's what I do, and that's what you mentioned right now. Sure. I feel like we have the conversations with our couples, and we always tell them, like, hey, you get to select the time frame of your photo booth. Let's say, for example, I always recommend starting right after dinner, because you don't want to waste that 1 hour when people are having dinner. So I always tell them, like, hey, let's say, for example, if your dinner is, from 7 to 8, I recommend, you start at 8 and go all the way, like to 11 or whatever your timeline is toward, to till the end of the event. So their question is always, well, are you going to be setting up during dinner if you're going to start right after? For us, that's always a no. Like we always tell our couples, we're going to go set up early in the day. Mm-hmm. And at that point, of course, we ask, do you already know what time we have access to the venue? I mean, we work with all the venues in town, so we already know. Mm-hmm. But we always get that information from the client. Right. And the reason why we like to set up early in the day, it's because we want to, technology. We use cameras, we use iPads and lighting and all these battery operated things, or, we need power. Sometimes, the power outlet doesn't work. So we have to figure ways to make everything work early in the day when nobody's there. And another reason why we do that also, it's because like you as my client, my couple, you might be okay with us showing up during dinner to set up. But like the way I see it as a vendor is like, that, but the guests are not going to know that. Yeah. And they're just going to think that I'm showing up late.
Yeah.
Or even like the venue, for example, like if you're the venue owner and I don't know you, or the venue manager and I don't know you, or it's the first time that I'm working with you, you're going to think that I'm showing up late.
And you won't be there again.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. That, there's a conversation that I always think about, and I don't even know if you remember this, but this was probably a conversation that we had back, I think it was like 2017 or 2018. We were working for the Antonian Awards at the Briscoe. That was probably 2017. I don't remember.
I believe it was, yeah.
So we were doing our setup, and, I went to set up early in the day, and I was, like, on the floor, like, steaming my backdrop. Mm-hmm. And this always, like, it sticks with me, and it's always something I think back. You made a comment, I don't know if it was that night or a few days after, and it was like, you know what, Marco? Like, I really appreciate what you do, because, like, I saw you in the middle of the day on the floor, like steaming the backdrop, and that shows that you care about how your setups look. And from that moment back in 2017, I always made it a point. I was like, like we have to do things early in the day to make sure that by the time guests arrive, right, the setup has to be beautiful. Yeah. Like we're gone by then, but I want to, and we're not even like using the photo booth right when they show up. Mm-hmm. But that comment that you made, you're like, you were here hours early, and you were making sure that every wrinkle on your backdrop was gone. Yeah. And that's what we do. And I feel like the standard of services that you offer, mm-hmm, have to be at that level.
Yeah. And that's the differentiator, right? When people are starting comparing prices, and you're like, they can go to your photo booth or my catering or my venue or whatever, and they're like, oh, but that one was, 30% less expensive. Yes, but are they going to show up early? Right? Are they going to show up at all? Right?
Yeah.
And that rarely happens that they don't show up. But are they going to show up early? Are they going to have that meticulousness of making sure that everything is perfect for your wedding? You spent so much money overall. I mean, an average wedding in the U.S. is $30,000 plus, right? And that's not. I mean, I'm going to be on that higher end, right? My weddings probably average about $50,000 just on the venue, food and beverage, and basic rentals, right? But then you're at all the
extras,
right?
Yeah.
And the planner and all that stuff. So I mean, I do six-figure weddings regularly. It doesn't mean that every wedding has to be six figures, but the vendors that you have should be responsible and should be meticulous and should be perfect for you, because it's your perfect wedding that they should strive for. But so I mean, if it's 20% more cost, then what's that value for that 20%? Again, are they showing up early? Are they making sure that everything is perfect for you? Because I think for 20%, I think that's worth it.
Yeah. And it's always, like something happens all the time. I don't think I've ever had a wedding where like everything is perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's,
but that's the goal.
That is the goal. Yeah, that is the goal. But there's always like little things. Mm-hmm. And that's why you need to give yourself some time to make sure that you fix things.
Yeah.
You know, like it could be, you know, I'm obviously going to keep going back to me as a photo booth vendor. You know, like the camera, you know, like sometimes, you know, like out of focus and then you have to fix it, or like the you know, like the brightness or the ISO, like different things that you need to fix. You know, so I always tell my photo booth attendants, I'm like, yeah, you know, we get started at 7:30, but I need you there at least 45 minutes before, because, you know, that way it gives us 40 minutes to figure things out. If you can't fix something, you get on the phone, you call me, or you call my you know, my photo booth managers, and then you know, like I'm just thinking of other examples. I don't know, like with the DJ, you know, with sound and like making sure they test the you know, the speakers and the microphones and all these things. So yeah, so I would say, you know, to our listeners out there, always make sure that you have that conversation with your vendors. And I know a lot of the vendors don't really communicate. You know, they're like, oh, we know what we're doing, you know, we know the venue, we're gonna show up. Yeah, it doesn't matter that you're familiar with the venue. Like, you still need to have that conversation with your couples. You know, I don't know, 2-3 different. Okay, asking you, how many meetings do you normally have with your clients from the moment they reach out, and let's say they hire you, that throughout the entire process? Normally, how many meetings do you guys have?
So again, it goes back to the needs of the client. So I have clients like. And it's funny because right now the window of booking has been so much shorter. I used to book weddings a year and a half out. Now it's 6 to 9 months out.
Okay.
You know, on average. I just booked a wedding for 2 months away, right?
Oh, wow.
I can do a wedding next weekend.
Yeah.
Right? I can do that, right? And I'm going to talk to them once, and that's what it is. And I've done that. But in most cases, like, it's not that many. It's 2 or 3, right? But sometimes it's the initial meeting of like site visit and whatnot. Because the first thing is you have to fall in love with the venue. The menu I can change 100 different ways, but the venue is the venue.
Yeah.
And if it's not your vibe and it's not what you need and it's not what you want, then don't have it at my venue, right? I want you to have what you want. And we can help you at another venue. And if it's out of the price point, then I can recommend somebody, which I do as a resource. But what's important is what's important to the couple. And so, like, I have couples that I meet with 10 times.
Yeah.
You know, because that's their need, right? And if you're going to spend that much money and you're going to trust me with your perfect day, then I'm going to make that happen. But in most cases, I do come across as somebody who knows what they're doing. So after that first meeting, like, all right, cool. Like, my staff makes fun of me sometimes because I sell a lot of weddings and I'm a caterer first, right? I mean, I sell the venue and stuff, but I'm a caterer first. And they're like, wait, how did you sell that? You didn't even give them the menu yet. It's like, no. What they bought was the dream,
the experience,
right?
Yeah.
I want to give them their dream. So I kind of know what they want, right? But their wedding's a year out or 9 months out, or whenever it is. Like, we're gonna discuss the menu as we go along. I gave them the baseline, like chicken dish is a chicken dish, but like we're gonna make it special, right? And then there's enhancements and there's upgrades and there's options. I mean, we can work on that, but the menu is the easiest part because I can't change it. What I can't change is the look of the venue.
Yeah, definitely. And right now, speaking, of course, of how important the catering is, can you walk me through an example of, you know, when somebody comes to you and, you know, let's say they have the budget,
Sure.
You know, they have the budget that you are within the, you know, like a certain bracket. How do you put together a menu? Like, is it, you know, like during cocktail hour, then of course dinner, and then the late snacks? Like, how does a catering package come about?
So it depends, right? Again, if food is their main thing, then now we're having that conversation. Like,
Yeah.
Oh my God, I remember that trip to Barcelona and we had the tapas and okay, cool. Now I kind of get an idea as to what they want, and is that what they want to recreate, right? I have others that are like, oh, well, we met at Whataburger. Okay, cool. And like,
make it fun.
You know, I'm gonna and interactive and back and forth, and maybe we're not doing Whataburger, you know, obviously for dinner, but maybe we're adding a honey butter chicken biscuit for late night bites.
Okay.
Or in the appetizers, right? But that's a back and forth that, I mean, and those conversations are 3 or 4 hours, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like this, right? We're just going to sit and we're going to chat
about what they want.
And I'm going to get to know about because what I can do is infinite.
Yeah.
What you like and what you want, then you know, we try to fit that in. But a lot of brides, I'm going to tell you probably half my brides, it's they want good food, but they're not specific on what they want. Like, you know, okay, so my favorite thing is when a bride walks in and she has a huge notebook, right? That like 6-inch
all the notes,
folder with all of it. And it's all just pictures.
Yeah.
Right? And food is rarely on there. Like, food is just not, oh yeah, I saw this chicken cacciatore or whatever it is picture. it's very rarely on there, right? So then I ask, what do you do, for your achievements, right? Where do you go and date and all that stuff that I said earlier. Now I kind of get an idea as to what they like, right? Oh, like I love seafood. I hate seafood, right? I love Italian. I love Mexican, whatever it is, right? And then we incorporated. When I have multicultural couples, sometimes I did this one always sticks in my mind because Chinese Panamanian.
Oh.
Right? So I was like, whoa, what am I going to do there, right? So we did a little Chinese on the cocktail hour, a little bit more Latino on the dinner portion. Right? But that one sticks with me because it was 300 people, which is like my max at Redberry. But they really incorporated, to them, what was important was their culture. So they started off the night with Panamanian dancers on the dance floor to greet the wedding party that came in. And then to end the night, they had Chinese dragons dancing and jumping in between all the tables, which was amazing, right?
I love that.
And they didn't focus on the food. They trusted me with that because I'm a professional, but they were big on their culture. And I think, so I made sure that when I came to the menu design that I focused on that.
Incorporating that.
And I made that because I knew that was important to them. And that's my process.
I love that. And I love that, having those conversations, having the meetings. A lot of vendors say just like, oh no, we'll send you an email. I think, for our listeners out there, always ask either for a phone call, a Zoom call, or an in-person meeting because, emails are good, text messages are okay, but I feel like when you actually have a conversation with your vendor, that's when you really connect with them. Mm-hmm. It's so funny. Like I had a corporate client not too long ago, and she's like, hey, Marco, she's like, I want to go to your office. Like, I want to have the conversation in person. Like, we know what we need because you've done our gala throughout the years. She's like, but I'm new. This is my first time handling the gala. You've worked with other people in the past. This is my first year. I want to get to know you. I want to see, I want to hear ideas from you. So I was like, okay. I was like, love it. Come to the studio. Let's go ahead and chat. And she actually came to the studio. We were conversating about the gala from last year. She was not part of it, but I was kind of giving her just an idea of what we did for them. Right. And then we started talking about, okay, well, what is the theme this year? What do you want? And then we just started chatting. I mean, that 15-minute meeting turned into probably 2 hours of us just here gossiping and talking and just, getting to know each other. We started talking about traveling, and we started talking about, we ended up that we were both from the Valley. So we started talking about high school, and she knew some of my cousins from back in the day. So, you never know who you're talking to by email. So I feel like having an actual conversation is a great way to connect with your vendors. Yeah. So I think my recommendation to our couples are out there. I always do that. You suggest it doesn't have to be in person. It could be a phone call. Everybody's busy. But I feel like having that call is always great because you will get to know them. You will feel more comfortable. And then everything is just going to run so smooth the rest of the time, as the process of coming, for wedding date.
Yeah. And I think it goes both ways, right? Like if you're an introverted type client, then if you're more comfortable with that email, that's fine too, right? The right vendor is going to adjust to what you need. Right, I learned long ago, and I think I'm a good salesperson, but because I focus on the goal, not on the sell. But I learned long ago, don't sell like you buy. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
I personally, I don't need all that attention. I'm a very social guy or whatever. But if I go to, the retail store to go buy a pair of shoes or whatever, I don't need somebody talking to me from the beginning, hey, let me look around, let me figure it out, and then acknowledge me. But I don't need all that, right? And some people do. Some people want that, right? What are you comfortable with as a client? And then let the vendor, a good vendor is going to figure that out with you and talk to you, right? Because some don't want to talk. Just give me the baseline price. Yeah. How long are you going to be there? And that's all they want to know. And that's okay too. If that's your vibe, I'm going to match your vibe, right? But you're going to miss out on all this.
Exactly. And I've learned throughout the years that, I think you made this comment earlier, and you're like, people don't know what they don't know. So sometimes, for example, with me, they're like, hey, we need a photo booth. And I'm like, yeah, but what kind of experience do you want? We offer so many different machines, so many different types of services. What do you want? Most people have the when they think of a photo booth, they just think like, oh yeah, we just need, like silly props and like, like a printout and blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, no, there's so many different ways, like, your crowd, is it an older crowd? Is it a younger crowd? Like, do they care for printouts? Do they want just digital because they care about social media? Do they want like, like black and white? Do you want like different things? And I'm, of course, with the catering part, it's the same thing, or with the venues, like, yeah, you might like something, but just also, like who's coming to the wedding, like what's important to you that you're gonna, this is the most important day of your life, like what do you want to showcase to all your guests? I feel like, this conversation has been incredible. Your knowledge again is just top notch here. We are running out of time, but just to, to finalize this episode, what would be, let's say, your top advice for somebody that just got engaged? And like you mentioned earlier, they're so excited. They're wanting to, get all these different vendors. What do you think would be like good advice on how, like, how should they get started? Yeah, of course, go to a wedding show, start messaging your vendors. But what do you think would be the best way to start planning a wedding?
Pick the right vendor for the right reasons, right? So, have that conversation up front, like between the bride and groom or family, whoever is responsible for the event, right? The reception, the wedding, right? Because sometimes mom and dad of one side are paying, sometimes both of them are paying, sometimes nobody's paying. It's just the bride and the groom. Like whoever is the deciding factor for this, then have that conversation, right? And I always say, like, keep it loose, right? Like, go on a date night or have a date night in, get a glass of wine and some cool food and just have fun with it, right? Because it's important, but it doesn't have to be serious, right? Like, enjoy
You have to have fun.
Yeah, like the wedding should be fun and memorable and exciting and not overwhelming and causing anxiety and making you lose sleep, right? And then, like, once you have that down, like, reach out to the vendors. And again, your venue and your food and beverage are going to be your biggest burden financially. So I would do that. I would, because then okay, cool, I have $50,000 overall to spend on this. Find out what that is, right? And your guest count is important. I know everybody wants to invite 3, 4. We're Latinos, we're Mexican. 3, 4, 500 people, there. Right? And then, but know that, like, for every person, depending on where you're at, it might be like a $200 per person thing, right? So every 10 people is $2,000.
Yeah, it adds up, definitely.
Right? Because you need more tables, you need more linen, you need more centerpieces, you need more chairs, you need more food, you need more drinks. It all adds up. So be realistic about it, right? Look, I've stood at, 12 weddings, right? Like, and I only talked to like half of those people, like, even though I was in their wedding party, right? And you just grow apart. So make sure that, like, you have the right people at your wedding that mean something in your life. And if budget's not an issue and you just want to throw a fieston, a big party, go for it. Like, we're here for you, and we're all about it, and we're going to make it happen. We're going to have 10 photo booths, and we're going to have, 8-hour bar, there. The whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's what's important to you as a couple, and then work on that.
I love that. Thank you so much, Art. Can you, is there anywhere they can find you on social media, website? Like, how can people reach out to you, either for the venue, the catering part?
All around. But rkgroup.com is going to represent our 18 different divisions, but RK Group, Rosemary's Catering, Flair Floral, Illusions Rentals, Redberry Estate. We're the one of the 2 options at the Ralston now at the zoo. So if you can't find me, there's a problem.
There is a problem. I can assure you guys, you will find Art. He is the best of the best of the best in the industry. Again, Art, thank you so much for being our first guest on this 3rd season of The Tipsy Guest. I am so glad. We have to do this again. I'm sure there's a lot of chisme that we can get through, but we're limited with time here. But I would love to have you again at some point.
Well, I'm gonna throw this out. I'm gonna make this public. I'm gonna tell you, I think what you need to do is do a Tipsy Guest roundtable with like 8 or 10 of us.
I love that.
And I'll offer Redberry, and we can set it all up, and we can all get tipsy and give out tips.
We are going to plan that, and that could be our little Tipsy Guest Summit.
I love it.
Thank you, Art. Thank you so much. And to everybody out there, we'll catch you next Tuesday. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Tipsy Guest podcast. If you know someone who could benefit from these tips, spread the love and share it with them. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Next round's on us. Same time, same place. Cheers! This podcast is brought to you by MVP Photo Booth, the #1 photo booth rental company in San Antonio, Austin, and Central Texas.